press conference. We would like to send a human. It is a press conference from the higher council of culture. The relation is very connected together. We would like to send a message to all the intellectuals and the intellectuals everywhere in the world, and to the elites in the world, that the real reading of this of what's going on in Egypt. We are in Egypt since 30 of June. The Egyptian people, we have to say that all the Egyptian people comes out from villages, from districts, from local areas, from everywhere, in order to oust the Muslim Brotherhood. And I think the history never ever witnessed such gathering of more than 30 million people to go into the streets to oust its leadership, and there were tenth of millions go outside, so they have to ask themselves. It was supposed that the armed forces has to leave the Egyptian people to fight each other and to leave Egypt to be drawn into a terrible civil strife. So we have to read the scene very well since 30 of June 2013. And you can find the demonstrators of the Muslim Brotherhood. They were armed with the automatic guns, rifles, Grenov, RPG, and even the light weapons. And they claim and they give us false allegations. They are peaceful demonstrators. So please read the right scene in Egypt, because what's going on in Egypt, and please go by yourself to the Egyptian streets and transfer the right picture. Don't take your news from the international Al Jazeera or others. So we will listen. We have the famous actress Ilham Shaheen, and the great poet Ahmad Abdul Mu'ti Hijazi, and the famous lawyer Sarwat al-Kharbawi. So this statement, it is translated into the applicable languages in the world. And I asked my colleagues in order to distribute a copy of this statement to all the participants. So if you allow me to read this statement. The Egyptian people in one hands behave one hands in order to refuse the foreign political blackmail in this crucial period where the Egyptian struggle have been crowned, and the Great Army has no way only to support the Egyptian people who has been rushed into the streets by millions, and the history, the contemporary or the older history never witnessed such millions of demonstrations. And in order to bring back the historical face of Egypt and the civilized face of Egypt, and the first priorities of the Egyptian government is the achieving of the Egyptian well, and those religious fascist Muslim Brotherhood try to routen and deepen the policy of the burning lands. And there are many countries try to support and to subsidize such a group and their black terror. And that's why in order to empower this group to break the will of the Egyptian people and to demolish and destruct Egypt, and to dismantle the Egyptian army and the police as well, and to commit this very disgraceful crimes against the innocent civilians. So they burned the churches, mosques, schools, hospitals, police stations. And the police institutions as well. And the governmental establishments, and they rob the museums and the burn historical buildings, and they destroy the gas pipelines and the railways. A barbarian, methodological barbarian attack. And it is financed by millions of dollars to subsidize and to support such criminal thugs and gangs. And you can follow up those actions on the screens through local channels and also the international TV channels. And the army and the police forces try to fight them and denounce. Despite that, we can find. Despite that, we can find a lot of countries can say that the government has to discard the violence against peaceful demonstrations. And I remind you that the British government and the British Prime Minister says before, don't talk to me about the human rights, but ask me about the British national security. So the Egyptian society is an active member in the civilized society globally, and we respect the human rights if the demonstrations are peacefully and according to the law and to the and without prejudice to the law and to the international principles. But when they use weapons against that is another thing. But I have to say also when the Egyptian people rushed into the streets on 30th of June 2013. It was unprecedented situation in the history, and never ever during this demonstration, which was very peaceful, there is no clashes, no weapons used, and they didn't involve in such crimes. So we couldn't we denounce to put the Muslim Brotherhood under the umbrella of the protection of some countries, and they violate flagrantly the human rights. And I believe that the Egyptian army, the Egyptian police, the Egyptian people, the Egyptian government stands together in one hand against terrorism, and all the Egyptian artists, writers, poets, actors, actress. They appeal to all the intellectuals around the world in order to save the culture of Egypt. And we call upon you to share us in order to protect our museums and to stop the international interference in the internal affairs of the Egyptian society, and to respect the Egyptian will in order to create and to establish its new country in a democratic